So I just wanted to put these three down, show you sort of differences in colour, assuming this camera can actually pick them up. Just looking at the monitor, it looks like it can. Classic red pod, classic brown or chocolate pod, and this one is what we're calling caramel. This specific one is the caramel brain strain, and this is a new one to me, and it's from Stephen Canday, Peppergeekfarms. Thanks very much, Stephen. And I believe that this one came out of seeds from the chocolate brain strain, Judy's strain from pepperlover.com, and it's clearly not a chocolate pod, and it's clearly not a red pod either. So it's actually pretty interesting to see colour gradations and variations that we can get. So let's get rid of those. As you can see, it's a very brainy, kind of unpleasant looking thing. Let's see what we got. Oh, we cut it in half. Okay, so this is the interior of this caramel brain strain, and the first thing to notice is that there are many little dots of oil. I think you can just kind of see them shining in there, as well as listening to the acorn woodpecker in the background. So the aroma on this is it's much fruitier than a chocolate pod. It's much more similar to a red pod. It's certainly fruity. There's a little bit of the plasticky kind of smell, but you get that with many super hots. It doesn't smell like a chocolate pod. So let's have a look. Give this one a go, see what a caramel brain strain's like. I'm sure it'll absolutely destroy me, because yellow, red, chocolate, they all do. Really looking forward to this one, I can tell you. Hi, we're here again, in the kitchen, doing something stupid. When will I learn? So you've seen in the introduction what we have today. It's an interesting pod with a very interesting colour. I'm calling it caramel brain strain. This is the pod. This is it next to red. It's clearly different. I've seen caramel pods a little browner than this, but the aroma is very interesting. It's actually very nice. It's very fruity and a little floral. Fruity in a passion fruity, tropical, mangoey kind of way, not sort of an apple or pear kind of deal. But it does smell very nice. It has that sort of slight undercurrent of sort of plasticiness, whatever you want to call that, or I guess whatever I want to call that. But yeah, there's a sort of slightly acidic nature to it too. It's almost a little sherbety, which is, it's nice to have a pod that actually has a really good aroma. So let's see, I guess, what it tastes like, and I'm sure it's going to be an absolute screamer, because brain strains always are. So, caramel brain strain. Thanks very much to Stephen Canday. Cheers. I mean, it's fruity, and it does have a little bit of acidity. There's not much in the way of sweetness, and it's very hot. Right away, it's extremely hot. But the flavour's pretty good. The acidity stays with it, and it's the acidity that helps balance all the other things out. Oh, that is hot though. Yeah, fairly simple flavours, but actually pretty decent for a super hot. Good for a super hot, and very usable. It's much more like a red brain strain than it is like a chocolate. It's very different from the chocolate, and quite similar to a red. I've eaten plenty of red brain strains. They always kill me, but it is a good pepper that I enjoy once the heat's gone. And this is absolutely ramping up like crazy. This is screaming hot. It's tongue and throat. Tongue especially. Tongue is absolutely frying. It's not as painful as others I've had, brain strains in particular, so far. It is very hot and moderately painful. My eyes are starting to get hot tears, which is something that I tend to get quite commonly with brain strains of all type. And I've got tears rolling down my face. Again, that's a typical brain strain thing for me. There's almost a juicy fruit gum kind of flavour to it, just a little undercurrent, and it's the sort of general tropical fruitiness. It's actually very nice. And it's just scouring my tongue clean right now, absolutely frying it. The back of my throat hurts a little, but not as much as my tongue. My tongue is in some serious trouble. But yeah, I've got tears pouring down my face, and it's starting to move to the back of my throat, and I'm just starting to get shaky. I'm starting to get a little bit of a endorphin rush in my fingers, a little bit in my toes, and the longer it goes on, the more it goes to the back of my throat. But it's not as painful as many pods. It hurts a lot, but it's not as painful as a lot as well. It's very hot, and some of the more painful pods aren't quite as hot as this. How do I separate pain and heat? It's a good question. There are two different sensations, at least to me, and describing one as heat and one as pain is the best I can do to really try and convey what's going on in here, because there's nothing going on in here. But that's a quick one. It's just about peaking now. It's just hot enough to scour my tongue clean, so I can't taste anything anymore, and it's very painful. And the back of my throat is kind of given up. It's not really doing much back there anymore. So what I would say about this is, yeah, it's actually started to go down now. What I would say about this is the flavours are good. Typical red brain strainy, but slightly altered, but nothing like a chocolate pod. There's a lot to be said for this being a very usable pod. You could certainly do a lot with this, with cooking, if you could stand the heat. But it's very hot, and while it is also very painful, it's not it's not as painful as things like the Borgs. Those are much more painful. In fact, the yellow bubblegum was more painful than this. Yeah, I do have quite a lot of tingling going on, and my nose hasn't gone numb, so I'm starting to sweat now. but it's definitely on the way down. It's already on the way down. It seems to be going quite quickly. The pain seems to be going first, and the heat seems to be sticking around. And again, that's just my interpretation of the sensations that I'm feeling, but that's how it feels to me. So, not as hot as I expected, not as painful as I expected, still as an absolute screamer. I would say not as hot and painful as the yellow bubblegum, actually, of ones I've had recently. Certainly not in the red bubblegum, chocolate bubblegum range. Sorry, not in the red Borgnine or chocolate Borgnine range. And I think Stephen's mentioned that some of the chocolate brain strains that he's been getting can be quite variable in amount of heat. Some are impossibly hot and some aren't really that bad. This one I would put just about super hot levels of heat and pain, which is quite considerable, make no mistake, but certainly it's just about there. Numbers are pointless, so I'm not even going to bother. But the flavours are good, it smells good, it's very usable. Yeah, I like it a lot. I like that one a lot. There's just a slight, as I'm just getting the flavours back now, there's just a slight hint of the tobacco-y, leathery kind of flavour that you would get coming really strongly through from a chocolate pod. There's just a slight hint of that in the aftertaste, which I didn't detect before, but it's definitely there now. So quite what causes, you know, something like a caramel pod versus a chocolate or a red, I don't know. But it's interesting that the flavours tend to be between the two. The darker they are, the more chocolatey they taste. Not chocolatey, but you know what I mean. The darker they are, the more the flavours are like the chocolate pods, and the lighter they are, the more the flavours are like the red pods. Kind of stands to reason and isn't incredibly exciting when I say that. So it's almost gone, actually. So it's another one that's ramps up quickly and disappears pretty quickly. So I think I'll leave it there, because that's pretty much it for that pod. Nice pod, enjoyed it. I haven't said that many times recently, so so that's a good one. Thanks a lot to Stephen Canday, Peppergeekfarms, and I'll come back with more idiocy later. So I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.